Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and today I would like to share all of the books that I read in February. This month has been taken up by one author. If you have been listening to It's a Charlie Thing, then you will know who that is. But it is Helen Cox. I saw the book A Witch Hunt in Whitby at the library, and as Whitby is one of my favourite places, I decided that I had to read this crime series. Then I found out that this was the fifth book, so I needed to find the first. And my library had it, Murder by the Minster, and this is set in York. It follows Kit Hartley, who is this librarian who drinks Lady Grey tea and doesn't like it when men have certain expectations and beliefs about women. And in this book, her friend Evie is accused of murder. I read this book in a day. Then went to the library when I was at work one day. I picked up some more of the books. And then when I was there again, I picked up all of them until the point that basically I have all the books currently available. And I read a few. So I'm just going to mention their titles here. A Body in the Bookshop, Murder on the Moorland, Death Awaits in Durham, A Witch Hunt in Whitby, and the book that I'm currently reading and will have finished by the end of the month, which is A Body by Lighthouse. Now, something about each of these books that I'm still unsure how I feel about it is the fact that each book follows a different character who is related to Kit in some way, apart from the first book and the fifth book, which are all from the perspective of Kit. I say from the perspective of because it is in the third person, so perhaps I should say following the character. The second book, A Body in the Bookshop, follows Evie, who was the friend who was accused of murder in the first book, and deals with the fallout of that book and the relationship that she is about to embark on, whilst also becoming embroiled in another case of murder. The third book deals with the detective of the series, Helen, whose wife was murdered 5 years prior to the events of the book. And it's a case that there might be a copycat killer. The fourth book is where I had a few issues. Death Awaits in Durham, because we didn't have this emotional hook. Each one had something that made me understand why the character would wish to investigate the crime. Whereas with this one, it was just that Kit's assistant Grace had gone off to university, which seemed to come out of nowhere, and then found out that this girl had gone missing a year earlier when she'd rung into a radio station to do some expose about the university. And the last that you heard was a scream. And yes, that was intriguing. And there were moments where I was reading it quickly, but I read all of these books quickly. They're very heavy on the dialogue and light on the prose, which is apparently what fiction should be anyway, according to the Society of Authors. 80% dialogue, 20% fiction. I think it can be done well. These books do have quite large blocks of dialogue. And I'd say that that's one of my criticisms as well, is the fact that the books are very dialogue heavy. So to combat that, the author has made sure that each of her characters has some sort of idiolect, some dialect as well. You have Kit, who is from like the Northumberland area, as is her sister Rebecca. You have Grace, who's from Leeds. Evie, although she's from the north, uses a lot of language that's a bit archaic. And Halloran's from Newcastle, so they all have another character's from Glasgow as well. And that's the way that Cox gets around all of this, by having them use certain words, so you'll be able to say that's that person. Grace uses a up occasionally, and it just doesn't make sense when she's using it. And yeah, it does mean that sometimes the dialogue can be a bit stilted. So whilst I am going to read these books quickly, that is because I'm in the mood for crime fiction at the moment, and Kit Hartley is a character who I happen to like. I think that A Witch Hunt in Whitby is a great piece of crime fiction. I like how Cox creates this web, and as I've recently said in a Patreon video, it's almost similar to Christie in the way that she takes you down one route, making you think that this is who committed the crime, what the crime's related to, only to turn everything on its head. And there's got to be something said for the series that I've managed to read 6 books from the series, technically over a 2-week period. And there is something compulsive about them. and something I enjoy about getting through them rather quickly. But I'm by no means saying that they are the most well-written things. I just very much appreciate the characters and their relationships, and I forgive a lot with these books that I might not forgive with others. It could also be because it's what I want to read at the moment. It could be that I want fast-paced books to get through, and I want crime fiction. I'm watching a few crime dramas that I like online. Some of the other books I want to talk about fall into that category, so it could just be it's where I am in my mood at the moment in terms of reading. I also read The Examiner by Janice Hallett, and this is a book in which university art students are being investigated by the eponymous examiner after some dark undergoings have come to light. And the examiner is trying to ascertain whether a murder has happened. There is something within these books that has a voyeuristic quality. And when I say these books, I mean the books that Janice Hallett writes. We are having stories told through WhatsApp messages, message boards between all of these students. And so you get to learn about their relationships through nothing more than their dialogue. However, for me, that is detrimental because, as I just discussed with the Helen Cox books, I think I respond very well to characters and I need a character to be built well. And you don't get anything more than the cursory glance at who the characters are and get some idea of who they are based around words and what they say to one another. You have no idea who they are beyond that. Like if we were on a Facebook thread right now and we were reading everything on there and you're reading people going back and forth, you don't actually have any idea who they are or what their lives are like and who they are as a person. And that's what I don't like about these books. I also didn't like getting to the end and having to have most of the plot explained to me over a 100-page period because there was no other way for the author to tell you. Very fast to read. I'd read 348 pages in 2 hours and then finished the book quite soon afterwards. But they're page turners, they're fast paced, but I don't like coming out of them feeling like I had no idea who these characters are. I know when I read a Janice Hallett that I'm never going to read the book again. Anyway, I also read Doctor Who Genocide by Paul Leonard, and this is one of the 8th Doctor adventures that I said I wanted to read 10 of last year. And this did make me want to go and read more of these books, but they're currently all in my mother's bedroom in boxes because I need to decorate my room. In this book, the Doctor arrives in Earth in the 21st century to find out that humans never existed. And when he investigates, he and his companion Sam discover this race of aliens that look like horses have traveled back in time to wipe out humanity. And they are working alongside another human from the 21st century who believes that the only way to save the planet is by eradicating humanity. There is a lot in here about conservation. There's a lot in here about, as the topic says there, genocide. And it's one of those that is written in a way that is very stylistic, classic Doctor Who, in that the book is separated into parts and each part seems to follow the format of a classic episode of Doctor Who. And I appreciate that. It made me want to watch Doctor Who, so I did that. It made me want to read more books in this series. I can't do that because, as I say, they're all in box. I really enjoyed this one. There's something to be said about the science fiction that also goes into very human topics and uses the means of Doctor Who, this classic sci-fi serial, to get that point across. And yeah, very much enjoyed this one. The only thing I didn't like was the companion of Sam, but I'm pretty sure that's the consensus among a lot of fans, is that Sam is just one of those companions that sometimes you can understand that. Like in this book, she accidentally, because of her actions, things get worse. They're trying to show her how difficult it is to make these decisions because ultimately someone is always going to lose out. Maybe it shines a light on the reader as well. It's a surprising one, really, because as I think about it more, I think I can understand Sam's actions, even if I, as the reader, know that in that moment they weren't the right ones, and also find her quite a petulant teenager. But I also think if I'd been reading this when I was reading all of these, like, I'm pretty confident a friend from school lent me this book years ago. If I'd read this book back then maybe, just maybe, I'd have felt differently than I do now. And then finally, I read one volume of 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. Very slow-going book. Still haven't made the decision if I am continuing. I've read 60 pages of the second volume, and the second volume does have more of a pace to it. This first volume deals with one character who has been called upon to rewrite this book by a 17-year-old girl because they're so certain that she's going to be a publishing phenomenon. And then this woman who has found herself in an alternate world, and she likes to go around killing people. And there's talk of this cult in the mountains and music and all of the common tropes within Haruki Murakami. But the first book was so slow going. And then it just kept going on about breasts, and it was so repetitive. And I know, I think some people really love this, or some people really hate this. I don't know where I fall in the category because Haruki Murakami is never going to be an author who I exalt above all others and encourage people to go out and read. But there are a few tales of his that I have enjoyed in the past. So, yeah, I've not made a decision about this book yet. But those are all of the books that I read in February, apart from one book that a friend wrote and I can't talk about because I've been beta reading that and offering some feedback. So that's me. If you would like to talk about anything I talked about in this video, then please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video because until next time, that is